Hello folks, welcome back. Chris in Central Pennsylvania. Still feeling a bit under the weather, but I felt necessary to make this video. I don't do very many reaction videos, but this is in essence a reaction video. Professor G published a video where he's analyzed his concerns about people who serve in the South African military, responding to a voice note that he'd received. Now this voice note, and Professor G gave the impression that the questions being asked have never been asked before of South African veterans. In fact, that's untrue. I know for a fact that over the past year plus, many South African former veterans of the South African Defense Force and those who served in the police during the apartheid era have been asked, and even those who served afterwards in the post-apartheid era have been asked deeper questions and had longer interviews and been called back for multiple questions to ensure that we were not bringing persecutors over to the United States. This is not new. It's not a new development. Also, in fact, recently it's come to my attention that someone was told that it had to go get classified records. This is also not a new development. This happened several months ago, and I told the person what they should do. And I don't know the outcome because they didn't get back with me. So the supposition that this is new and that it's an intentional effort to sabotage white South Africans from coming over to the United States under the program that everyone falsely calls the White Refugee Program is just bizarre to say the least. I appreciate and understand those who are frustrated they're not coming over, but quite frankly, you don't have evidence to support what you're saying, nor do I have evidence to the contrary. The analysis here is open to much interpretation. So the reality is this: there are South African veterans of the Bush War who have come to America as refugees amongst the 7,000 plus that have come over already. That's a statement of fact. There are also veterans of police service from that era who've come over. That's a statement of fact. They satisfactorily told people what they did, answered their questions, were interviewed, provided whatever documents were asked of them, and came over here. It's as simple as that. Now, I see that I read many of the comments of Professor G's video. Many of them are very angry at the United States, and I say, why are you angry in America? Some saying that this whole program has become a bit of a shit show. No, it's not. Your ignorance and misunderstanding and not understanding how refugee programs work does not mean this is a shit show. In fact, not a single South African has waited the average amount of time that any refugee waits to come to America under the existing program prior to South Africans being allowed over here. Nobody has waited more than a year and a half at this stage. We have a few people approaching that point, but no one has waited more than that. And that's simply the facts. You're not entitled to come to America, and if that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry for you. That's just the way it is. People are being approved, and some people will be disapproved. That's how it works. This program is not a right, it's a privilege. And if you don't qualify for that privilege, there's no reason to be mad at the United States. Now, as far as people potentially sabotaging it, which Professor G is alluding to, that may very well be the case. I have no evidence of it. I don't have a single one of these people who make these claims on other videos come to me and tell me these things have happened to them. Never had a single one of those claims where someone's saying that, well, I was grilled about this and I was told this and I was part of 6-1 Mech Battalion, so how can I not be involved in war crimes? Why are those people never come and spoken to me? Now, they may exist and this may very well be true, but it does raise very serious questions about why all these things suddenly start popping up. Also, I saw that someone who comes to my channel was complaining about being told to wear a sign and that they're stupid. No. The only people I say are stupid are public figures or people who are acting like fools in chat. You know, that's not directed at any specific person unless they're being a fool in the chat. So, look, folks, you're welcome to watch whatever you want. You can believe whatever you want. That is your prerogative. I've asked the question of the U.S. government about what's going on here with military veterans. But again, if South African military veterans are intentionally being denied or roadblocks being put up for them, why? To what end? Let me ask you this question. For those of you who think that they're putting intentional roadblocks up to prevent you coming over, why would they do that? Do they need roadblocks to keep you from coming over? You haven't come over yet. They didn't need a roadblock up until now. Are they suddenly taking 1,000 phone calls from you or pressure from someone, a congressman, to get you over here? No. Why would they create intentional roadblocks? They already have not sent you a letter of denial. They already have got your case open for God knows how long you're complaining about. And now you're saying now they're creating intentional roadblocks? Why would they do that? There'd be no need for that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it doesn't pass the common sense test. Why create more work for yourself unless you actually believe that the goal of the U.S. government is for the U.S. government to expose former veterans to the South African government that want to come over refugees. To what end? They already know who you are. They already know who the people who serve in the military are. This is not news to them. They have records of you. So it just doesn't pass the common sense test. Where do you get this concept that they're intentionally trying to sabotage you? I don't understand the logic that goes behind that. It really just doesn't make any sense. I mean, again, they have already have the ability to not bring you over. They haven't. That's the reason why a lot of people are complaining they haven't come over. And so now people are creating this whole narrative that it's all intentional and they're just taking steps to expose you to... Really? Do you really think there's this big a conspiracy against South Africans? Maybe one or two people, but a grand conspiracy by the U.S. government to deny South African veterans a chance to come over here because they served in the old forces? Why? I don't get that. It doesn't make any sense. People need to use their brain here and think for a moment. Why in the world? Give me a reason, a motivation. There isn't one. Now, it's going to revert to the automatic, well, there are leftists in the U.S. government who are undermining the program. And that is true. There are leftists in the U.S. government who undermine programs. But they do so at the risk of the termination of their career and criminal charges for not doing their job. There are laws that have to be obeyed. So they take a big risk. Do you really think there are leftists sitting in the U.S. government who've been waiting for 35 years just to persecute white South African veterans of military conflicts? If you do, then obviously you're a big fan of the X-Files. That is a conspiracy of grand proportions that I suppose it could be true, but it just doesn't pass muster for me. Anyway, nobody has a right to come here. It's a privilege. The U.S. government has a screening process. You knew that getting into it. I've told people all along. South African SADF veterans and police have come over. So that belies the story that they're preventing veterans from coming over. I don't know what happened to you in your individual interview. I wasn't there. I can't speak to it or how your interviewer treated you. But I also know that some people tend to embellish and exaggerate. Maybe some of you had a bad experience, but some people are obviously misleading others. Whatever the case is here, if you think there's a grand conspiracy, I want evidence of it. I'd be happy to expose it. Happy to expose any grand conspiracy. So please, send me the evidence. Send me your testimony. Let me know what happened to you. Appreciate it.